on a 50th anniversary, I think we would have fainted or not believed them or...
Right.
For so long, Julie Andrews stayed silent while the world only saw the luminous face of Christopher Plummer glowering as Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music, 1965. But now at 89, she speaks up. In soft tones, thoughtful pauses, she offers a truth layered with friendship, respect, and a lifetime of memory. What almost no one realized was how much the quiet synergy between them shaped not only a beloved film, but two very different lives. Stay with us because what she shares now will change how you remember both of them. You may know Julie Andrews as the effervescent Maria who danced across alpine meadows. You remember Christopher Plummer as the stern Captain Von Trapp, forbidding yet redemptive. But what you've never quite seen is what lay beneath the camera, how two actors navigated fame, craft, and friendship behind one of cinema's most enduring musicals. Why is this story worth hearing now? Because decades have passed. Time lends clarity. And at 89, Andrews is reflecting not from the rush of the set, but from a quiet space of memory. We're invited into that space, in a world that tends to present legends as flawless. This narrative gently challenges what we believe, that the making of a classic was all ease and glamour. What if the real story was subtler, quieter, richer? What if the bond between Andrews and Plummer, rarely spotlighted, holds a key to understanding the heart of their performance together? And what if the truth is quieter than the headlines? Join us as we go back, uncover the journey, witness the turning points, and hear what Andrews finally chose to share. Julie Andrews was born in England on October 1st, 1935, to Edith and Edward Ewan Andrews. Her mother was a music teacher, her father a bit of a musician himself. From early childhood, she was drawn to song and stage. By age 13, she was appearing on radio, performing My Fair Lady songs. That early training voice, poise, discipline would serve her well. In 1956, she made her breakout Broadway appearance as Eliza Doolittle in the stage version of My Fair Lady, earning a Tony nomination. Her voice light, clear, exacting, she embodied a kind of purity that audiences recognized. Meanwhile, Christopher Plummer was born December 13, 1929 in Toronto, Canada. The son of actor John Plummer and Isabella Mary Abbott, he studied in England and built a foundation in Shakespearean theater. By the early 1950s, he was working in repertory, already seeking depth and complexity in his roles. He was no musical ingenue, he sought serious drama. So when the offer came in the early 1960s to play Captain Von Trapp in the upcoming musical adaptation of The Sound of Music, the fit felt odd, even uneasy. For Andrews, the world seemed to open. For Plummer, the world seemed to shift in ways he didn't anticipate. But both were heading toward a moment that would mark their lives and would raise questions neither could fully answer at the time. For Andrews, after My Fair Lady, Hollywood arrived. In 1956, she starred in Mary Poppins, a role that won her the Academy Award for Best Actress and established her as one of the leading screen voices of her generation. Then came 1965 in The Sound of Music, directed by Robert Wise, in which she played Maria, the spirited governess. The film was released on March 2, 1965, and became a cultural phenomenon. On set in Salzburg and Los Angeles, Andrews carried both physical and emotional burdens, long shoots in harsh weather, 9-month schedules, and the constant pressure of living up to her earlier success. She brought warmth to the children, sang between takes, and anchored the film with her luminous presence. Plummer, on the other hand, took Von Trapp. He had a clear, crisp voice, and the actor's bearing of someone used to stage rather than camera musicals. And yet, the film's demands pressed in. He dubbed his singing voice Bill Lee provided the playback. He also reportedly grumbled about the film's cheesiness, at one point referring to it famously as The Sound of Mucus. And that's when everything changed. Andrews, arriving for her day on set, lively and committed, met Plummer, already guarded and skeptical. Two worlds merging, the Broadway and Disney star with the classically trained theater actor. It's 1964 March. Salzburg, Austria. Filming begins. Maria arrives on the train. The Von Trapps await. Behind the camera, there's tension. Plummer described the musical more as a silly project than serious art. Andrews, determined not to falter, leans into the child actors, and uses her stage instincts to steady scenes. Plummer, meanwhile, keeps his guard up, careful, precise. In one scene, a mountain hillside, the children chanting, Do Re Mi. Andrews is bright, singing full-throated despite icy winds. Plummer watches from the sidelines as Captain Von Trapp. The wind tugs at his coat. One takes to the role with childlike energy, the other with stern restraint. On set, they were not just playing roles, they were forging a working relationship that neither fully anticipated. Later, Andrews recalled that Plummer brought the glue to the film. She credited him with giving the story its emotional anchor. Their interactions were shaped by mutual professionalism, while backstage perhaps a careful friendship was forming. But publicly, the headlines preferred the frothy musical, the children, the songs. What lay behind was quieter. When The Sound of Music premiered in 1965, the world embraced it. Maria, the captain, the children, everyone sang and danced. It was innocence wrapped in melody. But for Andrews and Plummer, it was more than a hit. It was a turning point. On screen for all the world, off screen their relationship shifted. Plummer, for his part, claimed in later interviews he didn't initially enjoy the film. He resisted the wider, sentimental tone. Andrews, however, looked at the bigger picture. In a 2022 interview, she said, "It was really thanks to Chris Plummer who gave the film its glue." She added, "We became great friends, really until he passed away." Their friendship was real, lasting decades. Yet the myth persisted. She was the sweet girl, he the grumpy co-star. What no one saw coming was how that myth would obscure something richer. For years, the public assumed an unspoken rivalry. Meanwhile, the truth lay in collaboration, respect, a quiet bond. Off camera, the story was different. Andrews didn't speak much about it. Plummer, known for his frank remarks, sometimes alluded to discomfort, sometimes to regret. But the full picture remained hidden. The film's success catapulted both their careers, but it also trapped them. Andrews found herself cast more as the wholesome heroine. Plummer felt boxed by the musical image when his heart lay in Shakespeare. "I behaved very badly on purpose. I didn't want to be a sissy," he later acknowledged of his attitude toward the film. For Andrews, the criticism tickled at her core. She'd earned her Broadway stripes, her Oscar, and here she was in a commercial musical. She loved Austria, the children, the music, but she also sensed the industry's desire for perfection. Behind the cameras, rain delays in the Alps, children freezing, Plummer joking about being hit over the head with a Hallmark card, and then there was personal cost. Andrews' singing career would later suffer due to throat surgery in the mid-1990s. Her voice, once crystalline, was permanently altered. Plummer continued his dramatic work, but the one film everyone remembered was The Sound of Music. How do you live with a legacy you didn't fully embrace? What is the price of myth when you're simply doing your best? These questions hovered quietly, even as the world cheered. In the years that followed, Andrews and Plummer moved in different orbits. Andrews starred in The Princess Diaries 2001 and other later films, turning toward children's books and television. Plummer returned to stage and screen, winning an Oscar in 2010 for Beginners. The child actors grew up, the years passed, yet their friendship endured. In a 2015 event, they stood together at the 50th anniversary of The Sound of Music, ribbing each other like old friends. In a 2022 interview, Andrews remembered he had remained a friend until his death in 2021. There were quiet moments, a phone call, an apology, a shared birthday greeting. Not dramatic exposés, but simple contacts between two people who once shared a camera lens. For Andrews, reflecting on those years was personal. For Plummer, the narrative remained ambivalent: love, regret, humor. For the film itself, the myth continued. But someone had to tell the story behind the myth. And now at 89, Andrews opens up. In a 2022 profile, she credited Plummer for helping balance the film's sweetness and added that their bond was very pleasant. She admits that Plummer's presence grounded the story, gave it tension, gave it humanity. She shares, with understated emotion, that they did more than act. They connected, respected one another, laughed together, and held space for each other when the cameras were off. Now, if you're wondering why she never spoke much about their relationship before, The answer lives in timing and in action. She felt the film belonged to everyone, the children, the nuns, the mountains, and she didn't want to overshadow its magic. The truth is quieter than the headlines. It wasn't about love and drama. It was about trust and craft. And that trust enabled a film to become a legacy. She describes a moment years later, perhaps at a reunion, perhaps on a quiet phone call when Plummer simply said, "Thanks for making it real." She still remembers the weight of that phrase, not for the film's success, but for the co-star who understood her efforts and whose efforts steadied hers. And that's when everything changed, at least for her view of their shared past. Today, when you watch The Sound of Music, you're not just watching a musical you grew up humming. You're watching the intersection of two careers, two sensibilities, two people who found something in each other that went beyond lines and songs. Andrew's legacy as Maria remains intact. Plummer's as the captain retains its edge. But what undergirds them now is connection. Audiences, chefs, teachers, children still sing Do-Re-Mi. They remember the hills of Salzburg, the music, the escape, the joy. But behind that is a film held together by trust. Andrew's luminous generosity, Plummer's stern anchor. As Andrews herself said, it was thanks to Chris Plummer who gave the film its glue. She reminded us that success is rarely solo. In the broader arc of Hollywood, their story touches on themes of agency and identity. A young woman celebrated for sweetness, a man wary of sentimentality, both negotiating image, both negotiating legacy. Their friendship became a quietly radical act, two artists honoring each other instead of competing. And for that reason, the tale matters beyond a single film. Was there romance between Andrews and Plummer? Not publicly. They described themselves as friends and colleagues, even family. Did Plummer ever regret doing the film? Yes, he admitted difficulty, and yet he came to appreciate its value. Why did Andrews wait so long to speak? Because the space between myth and memory needed time. Why does this matter now? Because seeing them as people rather than icons helps us love the work more, not less. Look back to the opening image. Two actors under the Austrian sky, singing and dancing, taking part in something magical even though they came from very different places. Today, Andrew's reflection at 89 reframes that moment. The magic was real, yes, but so was the craft, the crisis, the silence. And in reconciling both, we see them anew. What no one saw coming was how much that quiet collaboration mattered. So here she stands, Julie Andrews at 89, speaking with kindness about Christopher Plummer, long after cameras stopped rolling. Their story isn't a scandal. It isn't a fairy tale romance either. It is a gentle, mature truth that two artists shared a journey, honored each other's gifts, and made something lasting together. And while the hills, the music, the children remain in our memories, so does this. That success is built not just on talent, but on trust, respect, and quiet companionship. Stay with that thought because some of the most enduring stories are not the loudest ones.